just introduce yourself and tell me what dog that you handle and breed, and what got you into them, and how long you've been doing it, etc.
Well, as a teenager, I started off with obedience, and I did that for about 20 years, and got up to the highest level. I was competing in championship. I had an obedience champion. I was competing at Crufts with her. And then I did a lot of private training, and I met a dog de Bordeaux. Fell in love with the breed, and I had them for 15 years. Done very well with them, bred some very, very nice dogs. Got champions all over the world, really.
Wow.
And yeah, they've done very well. I've always health tested my dogs. My obedience champion, she was a border collie. She had a hip score of 7. So I've been health testing my dogs for 40 years. Excuse me. I've had. Sorry, shall I carry on?
Yeah, definitely.
I've had consistently the best hip scores with the dog de Bordeaux, remembering that's a giant breed. And then, sorry, to get back to the question, and then the issue with the Bordeaux is obviously they are a giant breed, and it's the longevity of the dog, if that's the right word. So over the 15 years, they've broken heart lots of times. So I got interested in the Chongqing dog. The history is fascinating, and I, with in mind, the fact that these dogs are very long-lived, that was very appealing to me because of the heartache that the Bordeaux have put me through over the years. Don't get me wrong, I adore my Bordeaux. I was pushed a few times to giving up, but I had them for 15 years and I adore the dogs. But there's quite a lot of heartache with them, and at the end, when I found the Chongqing dog, it just made me decide to make that move. And the Bordeaux that had best of breed at Crufts 2017, which was quite something. So that gave me the final push to say I'm going to get the Chongqings. So that's how I got into them. And then when you look into the breed, at the time there was what they were calling the original hunting type and the city type. Because I'd had the Molosser breed, the Bordeaux, for so long, I didn't want another Molosser. So the dogs I have bought in directly from China are the hunting variety, which is where the dog basically originates from. Families that had the dogs up in the mountains around Chongqing, as the city got bigger, people, the sons of the families moved into the city for work and to live, and they took their dogs with them. Quite a few years ago, as the city grew bigger, the hunting dog with the drive, they wanted a quieter, calmer dog. So that over the time that the dogs were in the city, you ended up with a different look of dog. It's a stockier dog. It has, they do call it the Chinese bulldog. It has a Molosser type head with that bite. The hunting dogs, there's not many with the scissor bite that we're looking for. But the CKU have got the Native Breed Conservation Club, which is run by Frankie Lung in China. I
Mhm.
met him at the World Show. A real nice guy, proper
Mhm.
dog guy. It was fantastic to meet him.
Mhm.
And it's him that's pushed to split the breeds, even though the
Mhm.
breed is, over 2,000 years. It dates back
Mhm.
to the Han Dynasty, which is the same time as the Roman Empire. Um, the where the exciting part of the involvement with them is that we're on page one, because
Mhm.
till this point they haven't been recognised by the CKU, and with Frankie Lung on board, he's pushed them, and they've now agreed, and they've split the two breeds.
Wow.
Um,
Mhm.
we, you know, I mean, there's other breeds, say like the Belgian Shepherd. When that first sort of came into popularity, you had the four breeds. They were all shown together. I think they could interbreed, but you had the
Mhm.
four different types. And it took a long time for the FCI and the English Kennel Club to actually split the breeds.
Mhm.
Um, and there's other breeds, I can't think of any at the moment, that have
Mhm.
it's been a long time into the showing and breeding side of things before
Mhm.
they've been split. So Frankie Lung is the driving force in the native breed conservation club in China with the CKU, that he said, right from day one, we're going to split these breeds. And I think he should be really applauded for doing that, because it gives,
Mhm.
when I first got involved with looking into the breeds, it was two camps, and really we had quite a lot of conflict between the two camps, because obviously when I bought my dogs, picking them as puppies, I went for the look of the hound with the longer nose. Um,
Mhm.
and people that we know, when they finally arrived after going through all the paperwork, which was a nightmare getting them out of China,
I
um,
bet.
when they finally arrived, they were all over a year old, which was tough on them because they were coming to a very
Mhm.
different environment. Um, and People were the Chongqing people, the ones that like the city type, were saying that doesn't look like a Chongqing, blah 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 blah. And with Facebook, as
Mhm.
it all got a bit silly and a bit. It didn't do the breeds any good, because people sit and watch that negativity, and that didn't work.
Mhm.
So Frankie Lung has stopped all that, and he's done
Mhm.
the right thing. He's split the
Mhm.
breeds, and I am actually the only one I am aware of outside of China that is promoting and breeding the Chuandong Hound. So
Right.
where he split the breed, the Chong, that was a big argument, because the Chinese are very, they like words. They're very into history of words. So there was a big argument as to what they were going to call these dogs. So Frankie Long again, he's sorted it out, and the city type that was known is now called the Chongqing dog, because basically they live in Chongqing City. That's where the
Mhm.
breed really developed. And the original hunting type are now called the Chuandong Hound, and Chuandong
Mhm.
in Chinese apparently means the East Sichuan, which is the area around Chongqing where the hunting dogs are still used for hunting.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
he's done the right thing, um, and obviously with the hunting side of things, the dog, they didn't care what that dog looked like. Over 2,000 years,
Mhm.
you had poor Chinese farmers that basically lived on rice, and the only protein they got in their diet is what the dogs would hunt and bring into the family. So the dogs, I mean, they're
Mhm.
still prized by the hunters and the farmers,
Mhm.
because they were supplying protein into that diet of very poor people. So in that way, the dogs were lived in with the family,
Mhm.
um, and so they're extremely humanized. I mean, my boy Dynasty, my male, he's like imprinted on me like a parrot would be if you brought it up.
Uh,
They really do get into you, like I'm the most
Mm-hmm.
important in his life,
Mm-hmm.
which is lovely. It's really,
Right.
really nice. Um, so yeah, so they weren't. They've evolved with the sparse coat. They've got no undercoat, and the coat is sparse along like the back and along the spine, the tail, and under the belly,
Mm-hmm.
because the terrain in around Chongqing up in the mountains, it's very, very rough, and
Mm-hmm.
the dogs developed that short coat so they weren't getting caught in all the undergrowth and that sort of thing. So the Chinese
Mm-hmm.
obviously looked, they only bred from dogs that could do the job. So over the 2,000 years, that they've ended up with that dog that looks like what it does, if you see what I mean. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
product of their natural selection.
Mm-hmm.
One, I'm waffling. Once
No.
the dogs that did the job obviously ended up with a shorter. They evolved that shorter
Mm-hmm.
coat, so they were bred from. So it was a natural selection. All right, by people, but it's still a natural selection to produce
Mm-hmm.
that hunting dog, right? And on the same way of looking at it, the dogs that went into the city, they for a longer period now, I'm really not very good on timings, but for quite a few generations, those dogs have been in the city and have been bred for their look and their temperament. So the Chongqing dog has been bred for some hundreds of years for the look of the
Mm-hmm.
dog. People like the wrinkly head and that Molosser type head. I know that because I've come from Dog de Bordeaux. I love that look.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it, people like it. That's the way. So
Mm-hmm.
they have been bred for quite a few generations for the look of the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in some respects they're further down the line than the Chuandong Hound because the Chuandong Hound has been bred on its working ability.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you could say, this is the big discussion. Is it a purebred dog? Probably not. The hunters, hundreds of years ago, possibly felt, oh, they wanted a dog. Oh, hang on, that dog does this. We will introduce this. So that's why, because all they wanted was the best hunting dog.
Mm-hmm.
50 years ago, the Chinese army, used the hounds to reduce the wild boar population. So, like a
Mm-hmm.
boar, that's a serious job, and these dogs did that. So, they have that in them. So that's probably why we've got an issue with the hounds. They are a different look, but it's hard. Even when I went to China, it's hard to find dogs with the correct scissor bite, which is
Mm-hmm.
where, going back to Frankie Lung, that's what he's given us that opportunity by splitting the breeds now. I'm assessing these puppies that I've got here for the ones that I think are going to have the scissor bites. So how that's the when I spoke to him at the World Show, he said he wants, within, he's being very reasonable about the dogs that are being registered with the CKU now. He said, but in 3 or 4 or 5 generations, he wants to start seeing that consistent scissor bite. So in that respect, I've got more work to do. The Chongqing dog already has that look, and obviously it's up to the people that's got the Chongqing dog to maintain that look and keep it healthy. That's the main thing. Is that the dogs that I've met personally, friends that have got them, they are beautiful, healthy dogs. But in my eyes, I didn't want another Molosser. It's as simple as that. I didn't want another Molosser. I want that hunting dog. So they've got the 2 standards now. I think there's another one coming out again to where they've been assessing the dogs. The CKU are now taking registration. So even though this is a very old breed, we're actually on page 1. I bought Dynasty females in from the Conservation Centre with their help to assess the hunting look, and I'm very pleased with the dogs I've got. And the CKU is now, those 4 adults that I've now got are CKU registered. So they're the first generation, which I think is so exciting. It's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once we get 3 generations, then the FCI will then register the dogs. So it's, I don't know if you understand the CKU, the FCI is the European governing. And
yeah, they're the echelon, kind of like what the AKC is here. Yeah,
that's right. But the FCI covers the whole of Europe. That's what all the shows, the whole of Europe, and obviously that's Ireland as well because they're FCI. So, Frankie Long is saying that in 2021, which amazingly is not very far away, he thinks because we'll have dogs with the 3 generations, CKU registered 3 generations, that the FCI will come on board, and that's only, in effect, over 2 years away. Because I mean, I've got Dynasty, I've got his daughters. When they have puppies, I've got 3 generations, and they'll all be registered. So I mean, that is it. That's the other side of things. I've always liked pedigrees and looking at pedigrees, and with the Bordeaux, go back, 8, 9 generations with my Bordeaux, and I love looking at pedigrees and seeing where that trait's come from and that trait and how to use that to improve the breed all the time. So the fact that I'm on page 1 and my dogs are the first generation that registered, mad. It's just so that's my drive, and obviously to keep the breed safe, to keep the hounds safe in respect of getting them into the right hands. They are a scent hound, and they are incredibly good at scenting. Like you can hear their nose muscles actually working when they're scenting. Nose. So I've actually, from my first litter, I've got a dog doing scent work, doing drugs work, doing training for that, taking it on. So I've also placed 4 into pet homes that are doing really, really well. I mean, one guy says he's the son I've never had. Like, so they're going to be safe because they're part of the family and they're going to be loved and they're not going to go anywhere. When you've got a breed of dog that can live potentially up to 20 years of age, the whole point is to place them into those family homes that are not going to want to, breed them to some dog down the road and all this sort of thing. So, I mean, I'd love to get them into agility and obedience and working trials. They'd be fantastic at that. I've got a couple of other people, hopefully with this litter, that might take 2 more on to be drugs dogs. So if I can put them into places where they're going to be used, where their abilities are going to be used, as opposed to, I can breed these dogs and I can sell them for blah, 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 I mean, the last litter I had 6 puppies because I've kept 2. I had the other 4 and I had them up till they were, one went at 8 weeks and the others, I had them up until 7 and 8 months old because I was being so fussy. I could have sold them over and over, but you go on Facebook and you see someone's profile and it's got lots of colours, different coloured designer bulldogs. You think, okay, you're not having one of my puppies.
Yeah, right.
So, but then they were placed into homes and they've settled with resident dogs. People, this thing around that they're not good with dogs. They are fine. All those 4 puppies that have gone into homes at an older age as well have settled in with resident dogs, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating breed. They're more like cats, actually. They keep themselves impeccably clean. If they go outside, I hate the rain, but if they go out and they think their feet are dirty, they will sit and clean their feet like cats do. So they keep themselves perfectly. The licking does get a bit on my nerves sometimes, but
Right, right.
they do keep themselves impeccably clean in that respect. Um, and they're really, really clean for house training.
Mm-hmm.
They just, I mean, I've got these puppies now, thank God they've gone to sleep. I've got 4 in each crate. So they sleep in there. And then when they come out, that pen is clean. They haven't done anything in there. Come out, they get put on pads, and they're really, really clean. So
Mm-hmm.
in my eyes, and the fact, I mean, I've just come back from a weekend doing a dog festival promoting the breed, which I've done
Mm-hmm.
overnight. Get loads and loads of interest, and the interesting thing people really like is they've got no undercoat, so they don't shed coats, and people go, "Oh
Right.
wow, that's a perfect dog," for a
Yeah.
pet. They're clever. You can train them to do lots of silly little tricks. Um, they play like cats. They pack toys about. If a toy went underneath somewhere, they'd put their arm under and they'd get it out and
Mm.
their arm front leg. Um,
Yeah.
get it out. They play. They're very much like cats, actually. Um,
Wow.
I never thought I'd find a breed that took my passion as much as the Bordeaux's,
Uh-huh.
because they put me through a lot,
Yeah.
and I have. These dogs are amazing, and everybody that meets them at these festivals that I do are just, there's a big fest, like there was a Christmas thing, and God knows what on yesterday. It's a big area,
Mm-hmm.
and people were coming back. They see you and they see the dogs, and then they go around and they walk around again, and then I go, "Oh, hello, you've come back. Oh, I've got to come back and see these
Yeah.
dogs."
Yeah.
People are absolutely, taken by them. They really are something quite special. They use their ears as well, like cats, individually. So, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
but instead of,
Yeah.
they go, "Oh, what's that over? Oh, this is back to front here." Yeah, they'll go over there. They'll use them individually like a cat. And I don't know of any other dogs that. Well, I don't know.
Right.
Maybe it is something quite different with them.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I've waffled on a bit.
That's great. It was great. So, is there anybody that you know of that's actually using them to hunt? And what kind of animals besides boar? Or is it strictly boar that they do, or is it
Um,
all the above?
I mean, obviously, they can only be used to hunt in China.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I mean, I know there are dogs still up in the mountains being used for their original job, still in, with farmers, and doing what they've done for thousands of years. Personally, I don't want to see a hunt. I don't want to go and
Mm-hmm.
see something being hunted. All I need to know is that's what they did, and basically that's why we've got the breed today. Because when dogs were persecuted in the Ming Dynasty and all that sort, through their history, the dogs were taken and hidden away. So
Mm-hmm.
the people saved this breed because it was feeding the families. So
Mm-hmm.
that's all I need to know. I don't want to go
Mm-hmm.
and see a dog ripping up. I couldn't bear it. I couldn't bear to see, dogs actually doing that. I know they're still up there, in the mountains. Still, the hunting dogs are still doing it, which is good for our gene pool. I
Mm-hmm.
know Frankie Lung. He has been out but he spent a few sort of expeditions and gone
Mm-hmm.
up and out into the rural areas, and they're still discovering dogs. So that's really good for our gene pool of the hunting type,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously you've got to be aware of that sort of thing. You've got to keep the gene pool as big as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I went out to China, I've brought back in another young male, because obviously I've got Dynasty, I've got his daughters, I've got to look
Mm-hmm.
at who I'm going to make them to, so I've got, I'm prepared to do that, keep bringing in, new blood. And the fact that there are
Mm-hmm.
dogs in the mountains still doing the job, I know that, you know, the chances are we can search out those dogs. And as far as you know, to register with the CKU, most of these dogs are owned by poor people, and it's
Mm-hmm.
quite expensive to register with the CKU, so they don't care. They're not
Mm.
interested. They've just
Right.
got this that works for them, does his job. You know, he's part of the family. They're not interested in CKU and showing the dogs and all that sort of thing. So these people have, in effect, got to be found. You see what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? For us then to, you know, have a puppy from that wonderful dog that looks the look that we're, you know, because obviously the now the standards have been introduced. Us as breeders have it's the first time in the hunting side that it's the Chuandong hounds. It's the first time they've been bred to a standard, which is where the scissor bite is going to come in.
Mm-hmm.
Previously, they were just bred by the farmers because they did the job. Now,
Mm-hmm.
onto a different course for the dogs. You know, we're introducing the standard, and we've got to get that right, which is what Frankie Long, you know, to maintain the look of that dog,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in the correct way. Which is why, as I said, right, it's fantastic that he's had the balls. Sorry, I'm online. He's had the balls to like take that decision now and split
Right.
these two. It's
Yeah.
really, he really needs. I want to applaud the Chinese for saving this dog over the years
Mm-hmm.
because it did the job, and then secondly, Frankie Lung for really knowing what he's doing to protect the dogs and, you know, make that split. I think it's so important that he's
Mm-hmm.
done it now right at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I went off the track a bit there, didn't I?
No, no, it was great. No, you talk as much as you want. It works better. Just
It's
yeah, I'd
quite
rather
off
listen.
talking and then looking at my face. It's horrible.
Oh no. Well, I mean, who am I to talk, right? Um,
Quite off-putting.
no. Um, so you talk about the scissor bite. What other standards does the hound type have? Like the size and all of
Okay,
that. What
hound
else
is,
distinct them?
yeah, the hound is longer on the leg.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that ratio, I don't know the exact ratio because we're still waiting for the apparently there's another standard. So what's happened is the CKU has opened up the registrations. So they had a standard at the beginning of this year,
Mm-hmm.
and then they opened up the registration. So everybody had to send bloods. We had to take blood samples, send them to China of each of the dogs, pictures, various pictures with the bites, profile, head, you know, all this. So they're getting that all on record. So now they're going to look at all that information and give an up-to-date standard based on the actual dogs. Obviously, I've said I want mine registered as Chuandong hounds, so they'll keep that, and then they're going to compare the bloods. So they're doing it really, you know, really properly to make that
Mm-hmm.
split. Whether there's going to be a different in the bloods, that's an interesting, you know, that's an interesting experiment in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, they're longer on the leg. Obviously, they've got the longer nose. You know, my
Mm-hmm.
worry, personally, my opinion is on the Chongqing dog is that nose and that Molosser head going to go too extreme. But that's why I'm sticking to the Shandong hounds.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, at the moment, the Chongqing dogs that I've personally seen are very healthy, lovely dogs. But
Mm-hmm.
you know what's going to happen in 5 generations? I don't know. It's up to the breeders and
Mm-hmm.
how they interpret that new standard, isn't it? So
Mm-hmm.
that's the, you know, the thing of all dog breeds. You know, where's it going to go? Well, that's why I'm sticking to my hounds. So they're longer on the leg. They can be up to, I think it's like 50 centimeters at the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So the Chongqing dog is a slightly shorter dog. I mean, when I met some other owners of Chongqing dogs at the World Show, my dynasty was you know, where are you? Sort of that much taller in the shoulder
Right.
already.
Right.
So there, when you have the two dogs together, you can see the difference. Apart from that, really, yeah, I mean the Chongqing dog is shorter and slightly, you know, broader. When you get the dogs together, that's the only really time you can compare them. So yeah, that's the.
So weight wise, they're about the same.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
he's about 23. He's put a bit of weight on actually, but he's about 23 to 25 kilos. He's a bit of a fat boy at the moment. And my bitch is around 15 to 20. So of course, my bitches and dynasty, they didn't. I picked them as babies, like 12 weeks through videos and pictures and all that. But they didn't get here until they were over a year old. So they'd spent their whole life being reared basically on rice with the little, you know, as the Chinese live, basically a rice mulch, and very little protein. Now the litters, my first litter that I bred, that will be a year at the end of December. The mother of that, Kaishi, she weighs 15 kilos. The two bitches that I've kept, Fen in particular, the one that Frankie Lung said was the better of, you know, the type, which was lovely to hear. She weighs, well, the last time I weighed her, she weighs 22 kilos, and that was like when she was 9 months. But of course, that's the different, you know, it's like an experiment in itself. You know, the four adults were reared as they're reared in China. They were mine were reared with the best, you know, they were on, well, can I say Royal Canin? Yeah, they were on Royal Canin. You know, they've had the diet, so genetics makes them grow, but the diet obviously must affect them. You know, because Fen is a bigger, stronger bitch than her mother because she's been reared the Western way that we rear dogs. So that's going to be a change. I think people are going to notice the change, particularly me that got my adults actually from China. You know, and they've been reared on that diet. So,
so can you tell the difference, like with maybe a prey drive with the Hound versus the Chongqing
I don't know
city
because
type?
I haven't really. You'd have to ask the Chongqing people with that.
Yeah.
Especially this young pup that I've brought in. He's very driven. He's the one that's the picture of at the top of my profile page. You know, he's, you know, I love that picture because he looks like he could really, you know, just work, and he's really quite strong. Whereas Dynasty does, I mean, if a bird flies over, you know, he thinks, oh, I can fly. But now he's so into me, it's never going to overrun nature. Is it nurture over nature or something, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So into me, I've only got to go, oi, and he'll go, oh, I'm sorry, mommy. You know, and so that's what I'm saying about them. Yes, they've got a prey. I mean, I'm sure if a cat ran in front of him, he'd want to chase it. I'm sure he would, but then most dogs would. So, yeah, but they get so imprinted on their people that and if you give them a job of work like the drugs work that I'm trying to get them into, you know, you're gonna satisfy their natural drive doing something, and you know that drive to be with people. So it just looked a bit dark. Oh, yeah, so there is a prey drive. I don't know, difficult. I wouldn't initially say they're a novice dog owner's dog at the moment until we've learned a bit more about them. You know, that's why I had them until I was sort of 8 months old. You've got to place them with the right people that have got an idea. Actually, it's your duty now to keep this dog safe, don't let it go chase sheep or whatever, so you've got to place them with sensible, proper people. That's the important thing. But I know the Chongqing dogs, they're very loving and loyal, and mine. I mean, if I'm out and about, like when I was at the World Show, if I said, just hold the dogs there for a minute while I go to the toilet or whatever, they're just like, whoa, where is she? And they're looking in amongst it.
Yeah.
They're so like, oh my God, she's lovely. So which I love. It's a lovely thing to have. The dog is, but that needs to be handled. If they went into a home where someone was with them all the time, they'd have to put in periods during the day where they're separate. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a dog that's so into someone they get separation anxiety. So you have to put them in places with people that you can say, look, put this in place that you don't cause these problems. The best way I've always learned, the best way to train a dog is for it not to make any mistakes. So in the beginning, you're conditioning the dog, for a couple of hours a day, you're just over there, you're having a rest, you're not actually with me. And if you do that as part of their growing up, you're conditioning the dog to behave in that way, and you're not building in something that could be a separation anxiety, because I could see that being an issue with them.
Right.
So the other thing is the health testing. Even though supposedly these dogs can live, they're healthy, they've been naturally selected, so the healthiest ones have been bred from, and they are long lived, up to 20 years of age. There are dogs at the conservation centre that are 16 and still want to go and hunt. That's amazing. But even though I'm not taking that for granted, my 4 adults, I say I've been health testing for 40 years. My 4 adults have been hip, elbow, patella tested, scored, heart and eye tested. And, that's just what I will do. And that's what so I'm building up my own records of the way we assess a dog's health in the West, which is by tests. The fact that they're long-lived, healthy dogs obviously is awesome. But I want to be able to assess, I want to get the hip score I get now and the elbow scores that I get now, and I want to see those getting better and getting as best as I can possibly get them. But that's just me. I'm a bit obsessive about things like that.
Right. Well, it's good to be. If you're going to be doing this, might as well do it the right way.
Yeah, that's what I always try to do.
So, like, where I live currently, I'm originally from the Northwest, so I'm originally from Portland, Oregon, so the weather is a lot like the United Kingdom. But where I live now is the Midwest, and it gets very hot in the summer, hot and humid. You can get 98 degrees with 100% humidity, and
that'd be perfect,
and in the winter, in the winter it's below 0 Fahrenheit. Right. And we get snow and ice. How do you think one of your dogs would handle that kind of extreme weather?
I haven't noticed them being bothered terrifically by the cold. They hate the rain. They hate the rain with obsession. Like they just shake all the time. Get it off me, get it off me. They hate it.
Right.
But I mean, obviously, you've got to be sensible. If you've got a dog and it's starting to shiver and shake, then you put a coat on it. I mean, they have got coats. It'll be interesting to see if in the Western climate that coat, over, even it's going to take a long time, but would they end up with a slightly longer coat? I don't know. Some people are saying that. I don't know. They've taken over 2,000 years to look like this. It might take another 2,000 to start to grow a coat. I don't know. But, you've got to be sensible. You've got to care for that dog. And if it's cold, you put a coat on it when you take it out. I mean, I don't see it's going to be an issue with the dogs.
See, I'm an English Bulldog guy. That's kind of where my, my Molosser breed type is the English Bulldog,
Okay.
and you can't take them out. It's over 75 degrees, and if it's under 45, you better put a coat on them and not let them be out for very long. So that's kind of
Yeah.
why I asked the question for
Oh,
somebody
well,
who's not really.
regard with the Bordeaux's,
Hmm.
they obviously the size of the dog. You're talking about a male 60, 70 kilos. They had real issues with the heat. And
Hmm.
the biggest show for the Dog de Bordeaux is as a breed is the French Club Match, obviously held in France. Now I've had the breed for 15 years. I've never been to the French Club Match because I couldn't bear the stress of worrying myself sick about whether my dogs were overheating, even with cool
Hmm.
coats on. I just thought I'm not going to put myself through the stress and all the dogs. Um, and when I travel to shows in Europe with them, it's a big thing in your mind. Your vehicle, is it cool? Have you got your
Yeah.
cool coat? And all that sort of thing. And it's wonderful now to load up these guys and go off, and you haven't got to worry. Obviously, you've got to worry about their care, but I really that pressure in me has gone because I haven't got to worry about them overheating. And that was always my thing. If I travelled any distance with the Bordeaux, are they
Hmm.
okay? Oh my God, they're panting all under all the
Yeah.
windows, and all this sort of thing.
Hmm.
It was a real thing. Whereas these guys, they jump in the van and off we go. It's great. Um,
Hmm.
so from that side of things, it's a big improvement in my life. To be honest, I've said it to a few people. My life is a lot calmer, um, a lot less stressful now I've got these guys.
Hmm.
I am slightly paranoid about my dogs, probably quite paranoid. And there was always that worry. You had the worry
Hmm.
of because they're a big breed, the bloat issue. You had that.
Hmm.
I've lost dogs from bloat. I've saved dogs when they've had bloat. But that
Hmm.
worry is always in the back of your head. And the overheating side of things, and all that's gone. I've got these little guys that just are fun, clever little things that just love me, and it's just really, really nice. My life is so much easier now, which is nice because I'm getting old.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love English Bulldogs. I love all their traits and their lovability and their
Yeah,
looks. But I won't ever get another one. I will probably have some sort of bull type, but the exact same
that
reason.
that's the
My
thing.
boy, he almost died when it was 77 degrees out and he was out
Yep.
for 20 minutes. And he just ran around up and down the yard a
Yep.
couple of times and he overheated. I just don't want that worry. I want a
It's
dog that's a
horrible.
little
It's horrible.
hardier. Yeah, yeah. So I
It
fully
is.
understand what you're saying.
And
Yeah.
when you got, that's just one guy you had. He was your pet. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about,
The
traveling
whole.
across to you to show two or three Bordeaux.
Right. Yeah.
It was stressful, and I just, well, I'd rather just stay at home. My kennels are a converted stone building, and
Mm-hmm.
sorry, so I'm just watching all the people that are watching. um, Hello, son. the Sorry, that's just put me off a bit. Um, yeah, it's an old farm, so it's where the calves used to be reared. So it's stone walls. They're like 2 foot thick.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my Bordeaux was safer here. It's cool. It's
Right.
cool in the summer, and it's not too cold in the winter. It's a perfect environment. So I just used to weigh that up and say, actually, when it's hot, we'll just stay at home because I know they're safe. I'm not traveling,
Right.
I'm not stuck in traffic. And, when the
Mm-hmm.
car stops, I didn't have aircon in it. Aircon was the windows going down. So
Mm-hmm.
it was, always that panic. So I just used to stay at home. I want to put them through it. Whereas, these guys, I just load them up and off we go.
There you go.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's just less stressful for everybody. So
You kind of touched upon it earlier. It's a question I like to ask everybody with these kinds of breeds. So, like, I have I like toy dogs too. I've always grown up with toy dogs, pugs. Now I have a Shih Tzu. It's another breeds of dogs that I really love. Now, what do you think they would be safe with a smaller dog or a cat in the home?
well, as I said, the other litter, they went to their homes 6, 7, and 8 months of age.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There was one that went to 8 weeks. I know the lady that's got her, who is absolutely obsessed with her, she goes to her parents a lot. She looks after her parents,
Mm-hmm.
and I know they've got chickens, and Mulan just sits outside the chicken run and just watches them like she's watching the telly. She's really good. So it's like with any dog, isn't it? It's how you bring them up, which
Right.
is what it's putting these dogs into not a novice. I certainly wouldn't put them into a family situation, and it's the first ever dog they've had. They wouldn't get a puppy.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You've got to place them with people that understand actually. And my view on cats is they're very they control their life pretty much, don't they? If that dog,
Yeah.
it's up to the cat to get out of the way. He can get up a wall. He can, it's up to get out of the way. And if you bring a young puppy of 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks or whatever, you can bring that puppy up properly, you age to house train and all this sort of thing. It's how you bring that dog up, whether it gets on with this dog and that dog. But these older pups, they all went into homes with resident dogs and they've not had an issue. That's all I can say. I'm on my second litter, so we'll see where these go, and it's building up how to be. I mean, they're teaching me stuff all the time, these dogs. It really is a learning curve having them. I've gone from a Molosser down to these, and it's different but enjoyable. I'm really so, but it's definitely different, and it is a learning curve, especially with the bitches and the puppies. They're a primitive breed, and with the Bordeaux, because of the size of them, most people that breed Bordeaux, if they don't want to lose them by the mother lying on them, will keep the bitch next to them, but put them on every 2 hours, which is exhausting. Like for 3
I'm
weeks.
sure.
Yeah, but you're keeping them safe. I have never in 15 years lost a puppy through the mother rolling on it, and I'm really proud.
Yeah, that's something to be proud of.
Yeah, I mean, you'd hear people in Bordeaux, oh, she had a litter of 8. Oh, okay. She only reared 5, and I just think, don't even, But they're a primitive breed, and they actually want to be, they're self-whelping, no more Caesars.
All right.
It's just, they're a primitive breed, and they want to be hidden away. They want to be in a nice, quiet, when they're rearing those babies, you can see on their little faces that actually they would really go for someone. I've only ever had one Bordeaux that actually went for me. Because the Bordeaux were good mothers, but they wouldn't clean them all the time. They weren't that bothered, whereas these, they're shiny, spotless puppies. You don't see any, they're just, and so they want to be hidden away. They want to be in a nice, quiet room. While those puppies are getting to 3 weeks of age, and the bitches are much more settled. I have them. The first litter I had in my front room, and she got on okay, but she, and then the second litter, I had her in the front room, and she wanted to keep going and hiding. I thought, hang on a minute, Alison, work this out. So I put her I've got a room off my kitchen, and I put her in there, very quiet, out the way, and she was much more settled and happy. So it's all a learning
Wow.
curve from one very different dog to another. So now my room is set out, and that's where they'll be having their puppies, and it's nice and quiet, and they can just get on with it. And then she was much more relaxed and happy with the puppies in there. So, and you know, I have a baby alarm, so I'm in the front room and I can hear.
Right.
And actually, I'm going to set up cameras so I can watch, because obviously I need to know they're all right still.
Right. Yeah.
I will be setting up cameras in that room, but it's all about keeping the bitches happy, and and you know, they want to be away, hidden away a little bit, because that's what they would have done naturally, isn't it? They would have hidden them.
Right.
And it is a primitive breed. There's certain things that you can see all the time living with them. Yes, Ryan, I do know that I'm live. Sorry, my son's just asked. Do you know that this is live and not a private conversation? Thank you, son. So yeah, so that's what they are very different.
So I asked another question I asked everybody is because I'm interested in it, and it just, you know, what is your morning and evening routine like with the dogs? What do you do, and how do you handle them, and do you work with them and do any kind of training, etc.?
It depends on the obviously the dogs that I'm going to show. You know, I do work with them. I make sure, you know, they obviously all my dogs are lead trained, even though like the three bitches that came from the conservation centre, they really don't want any other people in their life apart from me. They're perfectly happy and fine at home. They do the dog show, the festivals with me, but they really don't want to get involved with those other people like mummy.
Right.
So, you know, when I have the dogs out, I've got a puppy dreaming. When I, you know, do the dog festivals, I use Dynasty and I use the young bitches that I've reared. You know, those three original ones that came from the conservation centre, they really don't want to go near those other people. So, but all my dogs, even though I don't walk my dogs, I know that sounds terrible, but I've got paddocks here. They all go out in the paddocks as long as the weather will allow. I live in Wales, so sometimes it's raining. So, and they really hate the rain. But you know, my house has got 2 foot thick walls, but Kaishi in particular, if she's out in the paddock, I can hear her saying, "Come and get me in!" Like it's raining, come and get me in. So they really don't like it. So I mean, and certainly with the puppies, you know, I spend a lot of time with them. The adults are fed sort of early evening. You know, I like them. They're outside. You know, obviously I go and interact with them and go and play with them in the paddocks and that. You know, if I'm doing a bit more, they will come in the house. And then, you know, at the moment I've got 8 little monsters in the kitchen. First thing you have to do in the morning is sort them out to control their ducks. That's pretty much it.
Well, I'd like to thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. I got a lot of information, and I hope people that are associated with you enjoy it.
Would you like to see a puppy?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
You guys?
Yeah.
Come here. Wake up. Come here, look. There's Mano. See you. Come here. Wait a minute. Look. Oh, God.
Oh, look at that. Oh, my. Oh, that's so cute. Oh, and they're 6 weeks?
6 weeks today.
Wow. Oh, look at that.
The 2 boys.
They're two boys. Oh wow, they're beautiful.
You can see
Look at them.
the on the black maybe better.
Uh-huh.
There now. You can see the sparse coat on the back.
Uh-huh. Right.
Yeah?
Excellent.
And a
Yeah.
little fat top of the tail.
Right.
Puppy
Wow.
dog! Yeah, you see that coat? And you get all this
Yeah.
chat on fake they look mangy, you should take it to the vet on
Right.
Facebook. Like, it's very difficult. And I just say, have you
It's
actually met one of these dogs? You
right.
know,
Yeah.
they've got perfectly healthy skin. In the summer,
Yeah.
all I do is use a bit of baby oil on the skin.
Uh-huh.
I rub that in just to keep that skin supple, so they don't see that's the
Uh-huh.
other,
Wow.
so
That's yeah.
they don't dry out in the heat. Come here, baby.
Right.
Hi.
Oh, look at that.
Say hi.
They're beautiful. Oh.
I don't know if you can see the length of nose there.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely could tell. Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
at these, this boy in particular, I'll just put this one down. This lad in the particular, can I just show you? Where's he gone? There he is. At the moment, they've got their little teeth. Sorry, darling. Hang on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you still? Yeah, they're scissor. You can see the scissor bite.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's black marks on the tongue.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yes, look.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
Definitely.
Open your mouth, sweetheart. I know, it's a shame. See the black?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, black marks on the tongue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when they're first born, the tongues are pink.
Uh-huh.
And then the black comes, the first litter, I was like, oh my God, these have all got pink tongues.
Uh-huh.
Because they're meant to have a coloured tongue.
Right. Right.
But as they grow, by the time, these are 6 weeks, and they're getting darker and darker and darker. It's the underneath of the tongue gets darker first, and the gums, and then it comes onto the tongue. So say it's all a learning curve. You know, it's very different. Aren't you?
Oh, look at that. Look at him. Are you going to keep him?
I think, yeah, because at the moment he's got the best scissor bite.
Mm-hmm.
So, but because their head changes as they grow, it doesn't mean they have a scissor bite. But that's why I'm picking them, because I've got to work to. Frankie Lungs told me I've got to work to get that scissor bite in sort of 2 or 3 generations. So it's all puppy selection, isn't it? That's how.
Yeah.
That's the difference between good breeders and bad breeders. You don't just keep the biggest puppy. That's where a lot of those people go wrong. No, actually, you don't just keep the biggest one. Looking for specific things with them, and obviously the scissor bite for me is, something I'm going to be pushing to get as soon as I can. So if I could get this young man, he would be a real, a real achievement if, when he's 6 months, teeth is through, that he's still got that scissor bite.
Right.
So, cross, darling.
Oh, he's beautiful. Look at him. Ah.
Hi. Okay.
Well, that was awesome. I really appreciate it. And if you have any last words, you can say it. Otherwise, I'd definitely like to be able to have you on again. Whenever you have something to say, just let me know.
They're awesome dogs, and I'm really pleased I'm involved with them literally on the first page, even though it's an ancient breed. We are on page 1, and the next 5 years is going to be, in my eyes, really exciting for the breeds, for both breeds. And, it's getting the right people involved with them to give them an exciting future, like they've had a wonderful past, and we're so lucky we've still got them, and we've got to thank the Chinese for protecting them Frankie Lung again, for, in my eyes, doing the right things with the CKU.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm excited. So
Awesome.
all good.
Well, I really appreciate Alison, and
Okay.
I will be in touch with you, and I'll give you the final product, and I'll give
Okay.
you a link so you can have it for yourself. And
Yeah.
like to be able to do it again sometime. Whenever you have something to say, just let me
Yeah, when
know.
these guys are a little bit bigger. Oh,
There we go. That would work.
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay then. Lovely.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Alison.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.